Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we re-diving deep into the life of one of the most fascinating figures in the New Testament, the Apostle John. You might know him as the author of the Gospel of John, 3 letters, and the book of Revelation. But who was the man behind these profound writings? He's often called the disciple whom Jesus loved, a title that hints at an incredibly special and intimate relationship. From a humble fisherman to a pillar of the early church, John's journey is one of radical transformation, deep love, and enduring faith. So, grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's explore the incredible life and legacy of John, the son of Zebedee. John and his brother James weren't just any fishermen on the Sea of Galilee. They were partners with their father, Zebedee, in what was likely a successful family business. The Gospels even mention they had hired men, suggesting they were more than just subsistence fishermen. They were hardworking, probably a bit rough around the edges, and clearly ambitious. Jesus even gave them a nickname, Boanerges, which means sons of thunder. This nickname probably points to their passionate, intense, and maybe even hot-tempered personalities. They were the kind of guys who, in one story, wanted to call down fire from heaven on a Samaritan village that wouldn't welcome Jesus. It shows their fierce loyalty, but also a need for some refinement. It was into this raw, thunderous energy that Jesus spoke a simple, life-altering invitation. Follow me. And in that moment, John left his nets, his boat, and his old life behind, to embark on an adventure he could never have imagined. From that day forward, John became part of Jesus' inner circle, along with his brother James and Simon Peter. This trio was special. They were the only ones invited to witness some of the most pivotal moments of Jesus' ministry. Imagine being there when Jesus raised Jairus' daughter from the dead, seeing a young girl brought back to life right before your eyes, or standing on a mountain, watching as Jesus was transfigured, his clothes shining brighter than any light, as he spoke with Moses and Elijah. These weren't just miracles. They were profound revelations of Jesus' divine identity, and John was there for it all. He was also there in the Garden of Gethsemane, during Jesus' most agonizing hour of prayer before his arrest. Jesus asked him, Peter and James, to stay and watch with him. Being included in these intimate, crucial moments forged a bond between John and Jesus that was uniquely deep and personal. This closeness is most beautifully captured in the title John uses for himself in his own gospel, the disciple whom Jesus loved. He never actually uses his own name. Instead, he identifies himself by his relationship to Jesus. This isn't a boast, as if to say Jesus loved him more than others. It's a statement of profound humility and identity. John's entire sense of self was wrapped up in the fact that he was loved by Jesus. This love defined him. We see this intimacy vividly at the Last Supper. John is pictured reclining next to Jesus, so close that he could lean his head on Jesus' chest to ask a private question. It's a picture of complete trust, comfort, and affection. This relationship shaped everything John would later write, infusing his gospel and letters with the central theme that God's very nature is love. Then came the darkest day, the crucifixion. While many of the disciples scattered in fear, John stood firm. He was there, at the foot of the cross, watching in agony. And in one of his final acts, Jesus looked down and saw John standing with Mary, his mother. Sight to Mary, woman, behold your son. And then to John, behold your mother. In that moment, Jesus entrusted the care of his own mother to his beloved disciple. It's an incredible testament to the trust and responsibility Jesus placed on John. From that day on, the Bible tells us, John took Mary into his own home. He didn't just receive a command. He received a family, a sacred duty that he fulfilled faithfully. His presence at the cross wasn't just about bravery. It was about love, a love that was willing to stay and suffer alongside the one he followed. After Jesus' resurrection and ascension, John didn't fade into the background. He became a central leader, a pillar, as the Apostle Paul called him, in the fledgling Jerusalem church, alongside Peter and James, the brother of Jesus. He was there on the day of Pentecost, when the Holy Spirit descended. We see him with Peter, healing a man who couldn't walk at the temple gate, a miracle that led to them being arrested and boldly proclaiming their faith before the same council that had condemned Jesus. John, the son of thunder, had been transformed. His passion was now channeled into a courageous, unshakable faith. He was no longer calling down fire on his enemies, but extending a message of healing and reconciliation, empowered by the Spirit of the risen Christ. He was instrumental in guiding and building the early community of believers. Later in his life, tradition tells us that John moved to Ephesus, a major city in modern-day Turkey. It was a bustling hub of commerce, culture, and pagan worship, particularly the Temple of Artemis. From this strategic location, John served as a pastor and an elder statesman of the faith, overseeing a network of churches in the region. It was likely during this period that he wrote his 3 letters. These letters are filled with pastoral wisdom, warning against false teachings that were creeping into the church and constantly calling believers back to the core truths, that Jesus came in the flesh and that the defining mark of a true Christian is love for one another. His famous words, "Dear children, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions, and in truth, resonate with the practical, lived-out faith he championed." His fiery passion was now a warm, guiding light for a new generation of Christians. John's story takes another dramatic turn towards the end of his life. During a wave of persecution under the Roman Emperor Domitian, John was exiled to the remote, rocky island of Patmos in the Aegean Sea. For many, this would have been a death sentence, a lonely and desolate end. But for John, it became the setting for his most extraordinary revelation. It was on Patmos that he received the visions that he recorded in the book of Revelation. Can you imagine an elderly apostle, alone on a prison island, being given a breathtaking, cosmic vision particulars of the heavenly throne room, of spiritual battles, and of the ultimate triumph of God? The son of thunder, who once wanted to call down fire, was now a prophet recording God's final, fiery judgment and the promise of a new heaven and a new earth. It is a powerful reminder that God can use our darkest places of exile to give us our clearest vision of his glory. After the death of Emperor Domitian, the persecution eased, and tradition holds that John was released from Patmos and returned to Ephesus. It's here that we get some of the most endearing stories about his final years. One ancient writer, Jerome, tells a story that when John was very old and frail, he had to be carried into the church gatherings. He was no longer able to give long sermons, so he would simply be helped to his feet and say, "Little children, love one another." When his disciples asked why he always said the same thing, he replied, "Because it is the Lord's command, and if this alone is done, it is enough." This story beautifully encapsulates the essence of his entire life and ministry. The Son of Thunder had become the apostle of love. His message, refined through decades of walking with Jesus, was distilled to its purest and most powerful form. John is a unique figure among the 12 apostles, as he is the only one traditionally believed to have died of old age, not martyrdom. He outlived all the others, serving as a living link to the historical Jesus for the early church. His writings, the Gospel of John, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, and Revelation form a cornerstone of the New Testament. His Gospel gives us the most profound theological portrait of Jesus, with the famous I am statements and a deep focus on Jesus' divinity. His letters are a timeless call to authentic faith demonstrated through love, and Revelation, while mysterious, is a powerful book of hope, assuring believers that no matter how chaotic the world gets, God is in control and will ultimately make all things new. John's legacy isn't just in his writings, but in his life, a life transformed by love, a thunderous passion refined into a steady, world-changing light. So, what can we take away from the life of the Apostle John? We see a journey from a hot-headed fisherman to a gentle, loving elder. We see that a close, personal relationship with Jesus can completely redefine who we are. His life shows us that our passion, even our anger, can be redeemed and redirected by God for his purposes. It teaches us that true leadership and faith is rooted in love and service, not power or position. And it reminds us that even in our places of exile and loneliness, God can meet us and give us a vision of his ultimate victory. John's story is an invitation for all of us to draw near to God, to find our identity in his love, and to let that love be the message we share with the world in our words and most importantly in our actions. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the life of the Apostle John. I hope it was encouraging and gave you a new appreciation for this incredible figure. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more content like this. And I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What part of John's story stands out to you the most? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.